Ooh, got
And
15.
you just got a 15, so you figure out that while it's not functional, it's kind of one of those things like if you pulled out a few connections and cleaned them out and did like the Nintendo blow trick,
Hmm.
you could probably get this up and running. It will require no, it will require a repair skill or a jury rig skill.
Alright, well, I don't have actual repair, I'm pretty sure.
So you'll need someone with a jury rig skill.
Oh, that's a call for Meridine then.
If you call me, yeah, she's going to outplay come.
Meridine, I need help.
What again?
So
This
here you go.
terminal's broken and everything's old and it hates me.
Yeah, so Meredith explains to you that to gain access to the network, she's going to need a functional terminal, and this seems to be the most easiest one to get up and running.
Well, yeah, boom, right there.
You just plug it in and it's like, oh, it
Yeah.
worked the whole time.
Whoa, I did 210. Oh God.
Yeah, so yeah, to you, well, once again, you're a nomad. You've had to deal with all types of technologies. You've had to jury rig and make sure, everything works together. So for you, you're just like, yeah, you just rubbed it on your shirt a couple of times and you blew this thing
And you do pow 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 ching.
you lit this contact and you plugged it back together again. Next you know, boom, and the screen glows back up and it works. It's running.
Ta-da!
Excellent. Well, that's problem 2 solved.
Right. So as you enter into the terminal, you realize that you no longer have to do the library search anymore because this computer was designed to access this network. So most of the searching and the guesswork you don't have to worry about anymore. So now you just have to straight hack it. Because it doesn't, while it gives you the necessary foundation, you don't have any of the access. So you'll have to hack it in classic hacker style. And so, yeah, this will be the computer that you're facing. CPU of 6, that's the network. It has a speed of 7, and it has a data wall of 12. It has no.
That might kill me.
No, actually, I checked. You have a very high skill. Your hacking skill is your intelligence, programming, interface, your comp speed, and then plus 10. You have a natural, like, 20 programming, like, hacking skill.
Let's see, data for a second. Alright, I just need to visually read that so that I can keep all the numbers in mind. I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the data fortress work.
I looked at your character sheet and I was like, shit, you have a natural, like,
I'm supposed to be... Here we go. Alright, so let's go ahead and start adding things together and just try hacking in, which I think is just the start of the infiltration part.
At this point, Meridine is just going to stand back and look at her done.
The total number you have to roll against is 25 because essentially it works like a contested skill, except the skill is calculated by the physical parameters of the computer. So 6 plus 7 plus 12 is 25.
Right, so let's see. I'm rolling my interface, and I'm going to go ahead and add programming.
Real simple. Take your intelligence. Take your intelligence ability score, your programming skill ability score, and your interface ability score, and your comp speed on your cyber deck. That's your base, and then roll d10. So d10, pull it, whatever the total of that number is. I think it's 21.
Does interface add intelligence automatically?
Yes, but this is where it gets weird because programming skill is also, so you can't do it that way because it's not a single, it's like a combined roll. So just add all the numbers together and just roll 1d10 plus whatever the combined numbers of that is. Which just
I gotta go search for those numbers. So I'm gonna go /roll 1d10 exclamation mark and see what I get. So I have 7 interface and programming knowledge is all the way down here. Or it's somewhere on this sheet. I'll find it. New programming knowledge is 7, so that's already 14. 7 plus 7. My comp speed. I think we were talking about this not too long ago.
1. It's a 1.
Yep, so I got a +1. And of course we have the d10 that I'm rolling. Oh, right, and then I also have the intelligence here, so...
Intelligence, programming, interface, and comp speed.
Let's see. And I should go ahead and add in my program bonus as well here. Let me check which ones I have bonuses on.
Yes, if you have, like I said,
I have a programming bonus, and that is the one that applies here. So that's an extra +1.
now you have +2. Comp speed and program is a +2.
All right, so let's see how well this goes. With a 25 on a 2.
Well, that's the exact number you need.
That's like I said. That was the exact number you needed. You have extremely high hacking skill.
Yeah.
I remember we were going over the rules, and I'm going over all the numbers. Like, wow, this is really hard. And then I looked at your skills.
Isn't data wall times 3 36?
It's data wall, the original data wall number times 3. So that data wall is. All
right, so that's the protection
4.
number, not the data wall number then.
Yeah, that's
so the data wall is actually 4. Got it. Okay, so that's vastly different.
Yeah. So that's I'm sorry, I did data wall, but it's actually protection, but it's just a multiple of data wall. That's all it is. So yeah, you hit the number. Like I said, you had to have rolled a 1, which is a fumble, to fail this roll. But also you realize as much as this seemed as easy as it is, you realize the reason is because literally like 90% of the computer systems are down. Had you been doing this against a really like peak performance, you'd forget it. It'd have been like a C.
Or you're just really,
speed
really
of 50,
good.
Speed of 50 and like a DW of like 100.
Or you're just really, really good.
Even then. But anyway, so I am
now infiltrating.
You now have full access to the entire network directory, and all of the hidden messages are now available to you. So as you quickly scan through the directories, unfortunately, much like the guest network ping that you did, you quickly realize that was not an issue of access. From what you can tell, most of the physical infrastructure is down.
Right.
Sensor, where it says environmental, like you go into the environmental sensor section, and you see the directory, and you see like the layouts and everything, and it just says offline, 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 and you just realize like, oh, it's offline because they're gone or destroyed. Like there's nothing to connect. And then, sure enough, you go over to the maintenance drone section where the maintenance robots and the landscaping robots directory would be. And sure enough, offline, 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 offline damage.
So what systems do we have in here in total? We have maintenance bots and me.
Basically, what's considered maintenance landscaping. You have what's called environmental sensors. Essentially, what are the corporate logs and the records? Personal entries, all the corporate reports. And then you have the Greeter AI master directory, whereby you can look at all the AI files and basically get a look at the source code of it.
Okay. That's probably part of what I'm interested in the first place, because if I infiltrate for too long and I eventually fail, it could trigger the AI to some sort of default defensive mode, and that could end up being very poor for me. So I might want to take control of the system as quickly as possible.
As you are suspecting that, you realize two very curious things about this. Number one, it's not curious; it's just common sense. The state of the network is that it's in such a degraded state that it's basically paper. It's like paper wall. You could take this over with no problem.
Right.
But the other reason why it's so easy to do is because, from what you understand, this is probably one of the most benign and welcoming networks you've ever seen. This system wasn't really designed. Externally, it had a defense system, right? Obviously, because you didn't want random hackers just pinging. But once you got inside, it's very well interconnected, and it's very trusting, as opposed to most other corporate networks, which are very segmented, extremely paranoid, and there's just all kinds of security.
Right. Why do you need to put up ice for a public park?
Right. And so yeah, but this is a corporate network. So it's almost like this was a corporate network that wasn't run like a corporate network.
So I'm going to put like on my to-do list the two, quote, enhanced defenses of the network later on.
And so as you're scanning through all these systems, you go and you peek into the corporate logs, and unfortunately, you were already suspecting this, but 95% of the records are corrupted. There's just a handful of records that you can look at.
Oh, goody.
And then as you go over to the AI source code and you start scanning it, once again, as you've seen, this program is extremely sophisticated than it had any business being. And as you're looking at the code and the hooks and the parameters and all that, you realize that this AI is, for all intents and purposes, a template of what you imagine would have probably been sort of the groundskeeper sort of bot of the network.
Right, so it's not just the greeter, it's an amalgam of, hey, run all the system stuff too, why don't you?
So what you've seen is that literally almost every other function of the network is basically a copy of this AI, and they all talk to each other. So in a sense, in sort of like a weird way, it was sort of like a corner cutting measure, whereby instead of having very discrete programs that they just created one program and let it do everything. And so like the greeter AI functionally is no different from the sensor AI. It just only allows you to access certain functions of the sensor.
Now, here's a fun question. Is there a parent-child relationship here with the AI that if the parent is changed, then the child functions will also change? I.e., if I fix the greeter bot, do the groundskeeper bots also change?
From your understanding of what's happening here, and as you go into the deeper network functions, like you're pinging the network and you're trying to see like how many nodes are still active, is there an actual network running physically, like is there another site somewhere that I can access, is there another machine room somewhere that I can find? You realize that for all intents and purposes, the handful of servers that are operating in this room pretty much represents the sum total of the remaining network, and that the greeter AI over time has been cannibalizing, adapting, and modifying the remaining resources of the network to keep its stuff running. Part of the data corruption from the corporate records is the fact that she overwrote hard drive space on that server to keep her functions running.
Okay.
Which, wow, only like military grade, government grade AIs do this kind of thing.
And it definitely doesn't seem like it is, so it's more of a random functions that have developed in that direction, which is still incredibly interesting.
And what you basically gather from this entire scanning and researching is it's essentially like someone used missile to light a campfire.
I mean, they succeeded.
They succeeded, but it's overkill. Like you would not understand why anyone running a park sophisticated of an AI system, because the AI is if you understand, it's called a heuristic algorithmic function, which is self-learning, self-aware, and capable of communicating within itself to learn. And
maybe it was an experiment.
I could definitely probably try to rule out outside interference while I'm looking at this whole mess.
And so as far as you can tell, the only abilities you have right now is you can turn on the AI again, because you have higher level access. It won't just treat you like a guest, it will actually converse with you, and whatever access it has, it will give to you. So essentially you get like the Star Trek computer conversation.
Ooh, that would be nice. Meriden would like to talk to AI.
Right, but I guess aside from just talking to it, I couldn't just manually change it right now to say, oh, it's not owned by Petricorp anymore, it's owned by Roadrunners and Kitty.
You could. I mean...
that's kind of my intention here, to just, quote, take control here. Because the sooner it doesn't see us as a threat, the better.
As far as you can tell, once you activate the AI based on your admin privileges, it's like a Siri program. You can go, "Hey Siri, whenever I say hi, greet me as greet me as the Roadrunners."
Okay, so in this case, then, as long as people are accessing it from here and on the inside, everything is fine. Then.
Well, here's the thing. In your research and looking, like you said, Steve's like, this isn't a big network place. And yeah, no one's connected to this network in a long time. It's
Right.
just been broadcasting. The only person you've seen connecting is Steve, and he only just connects to the guest network and just apparently just runs the AI on loop.
I don't
Okay.
want to know what he's doing there.
So then
yeah,
I will definitely go ahead and activate the AI from inside and get a better conversation.
Will I be able to see the AI?
what you notice is that the terminal also doubles as a small holographic display. As soon as you punch in the functions and activate the AI, so once again you get the kind of like the Star Wars hologram effect. And once again, the image of this perfectly beautiful stewardess woman appears, and she's like, "Welcome to the Pine Valley Central Network Database."
Oh, hi there.
Hi. She goes, "That's strange. Are you a new employee?"
That I am. There's been a drastic change in management recently, and we need to
Mary,
fix quite a lot of
yeah,
things around here.
Meriden will just be buying Kitty with waving at the AI a bit dumbly.
She goes, "Oh, thank you. That might explain my limited functionality. Could you please explain why I have no longer access to sensors and other key functions of the network?"
Well, from what I can tell, everything has degraded very greatly over time. It looks like some of your own tendencies to cannibalize the network may have contributed to that as well. But
And
I think perhaps we could repair everything to a satisfactory amount of function.
she goes, "Strange. Hold on a moment." And you see her kind of like, once again, it's like looking around as if she's looking at teleprompters. She goes, "Yes, I have discovered that I have been repurposing and recoding the central database." She goes, "I have not." She's like, "I have not been. There has not been proper maintenance on my network." And she's like, "What's wrong? Strange." She goes, "What is happening here?" And she obviously can't see the room, so it's
Mhm.
just but she's looking around almost like the first time she's ever noticed like how horrible everything looks. "I'm sorry. Do you know Dr. Mendez?"
Dr. Mendez? I don't think I've heard that
Yes.
name.
She's
Is
the
he?
administrator of this facility. She designed me.
Huh.
Would I happen to know that name at all, or would that just be outside of my possibility?
If you do a quick search, you can pull up a corporate directory, and sure enough, there it's listed as a Dr. Joanna Mendez,
Hmm.
main administrator and chief researcher of this facility.
Huh. Interesting. She
Uh,
used to
what
work here.
what
And you said
is
she
the
created you,
yeah
or
yeah
do you mean she
Meriden?
modified you?
Meriden is going to cut a bit Kitty, as Meriden is going to ask, "What is the last thing you remember?"
And she's like, "I don't remember much of anything at all. It's curious. I do remember when Dr. Mendez taught me how to say a poem."
Hmm. You can continue,
And
Kitty.
so, Kitty, what, like I said, once again, what you have determined is going on here is, like I said, this AI is very sophisticated, and from what you could tell, someone programmed basically a survival instinct out, like subroutine to it,
Hmm.
extreme circumstance to maintain its operational status. And this was not for the greeter function. This was for
Hmm.
the facility. It was
Well,
designed
given Kitty's
to.
advanced knowledge and, of course, knowledge of the survival subroutine, Kitty's gonna go ahead and offer and go. I think we can go ahead and try to repair everything here. Would you mind if we started with the diagnostic on your own AI and try to work out a few of the kinks that seem to have developed? I noticed a fair bit of stuttering on the way in.
She goes, "Sure, stand by." And then you see her kind of like look, like almost roll her eyes back, kind of like
Mhm.
she's doing a
Oh, that's
subroutine.
creepy.
Yeah, the VR version of Kitty will like approach and like open up like the back panel and just start tweaking around.
And so after a while, the human voice that you've been talking to, and you get a kind of very cold robot. You're now talking to the core logic. It's doing a debug routine, and so she goes, "Warning, warning, critical code failure. Warning, warning, hard drive capacity exceeded. Warning, warning, imminent code collapse."
So, well, using my advanced programming skills, I could perhaps try to optimize her currently so that she doesn't, say, reach immediate failure, and then work on increasing hard drive space later.
While
basically do a bit of compression.
And so as you go through this train of thought and you're going through the source code and you're understanding how this whole system is working, you now come to a very, very shocking realization. It is on its last legs. Now, one server, one CPU, one RAM chip fails, it's forever.
Right, so literally any more damage to any of the system and bye.
And you're also noticing that there is no longer enough resources for you to perform maintenance on it.
Well, I do have my own modem hooked up right now, and it does have some extra memory units available.
Right. And what you realize is what you can possibly try to do is you can't fix this AI here. You reprogram it, but it doesn't need to be reprogrammed. Once it gets enough resources, it can fix itself.
Okay.
What you need is to give it a computer system whereby it can. So the only solution that you know has any chance of succeeding right now, you compress the code and back it up. But once you do that, whatever's remaining will be destroyed. Resources to keep it running after you've compressed it. Compression and the running algorithm will exceed the capacity of the computer. It will overwrite the core code for the sake of the compression, and it will just leave you a compressed file. But once you do that, this current iteration of the AI will no longer function. You will just have the raw source code. You're pretty sure if you put that code in a computer capable of running it, and it will functionally be no different than this AI, and it will have the ability to fix whatever's wrong with it, and it won't stop stuttering, and you can actually kind of see what it's supposed to be doing.
I just had to wait on the dogs there for a moment, but okay.
So yeah, and this is going to be extremely difficult. Like, this isn't going to be something you're going to do in 5 minutes. You're going to have to come back and do this. It's probably going to be an extended task.
Okay, so that's definitely on my task list. I'm going to put, I guess, storing the AI will be the current task.
Okay. And so at this point, really the only thing, even with your admin levels that you can just access and look at without too much to do is basically, as you see, it's like 4 records left in the corporate database.
I'll go ahead and copy those over and make sure to read them. But the bigger question is this failing system and reattaching the old systems that are all broken. I'm basically looking for like the locations of those sensors and bots, and
so as you pull up as you pull up the site map, obviously with this part, there's a map that tells you, like, well, you want to know what the sensors are? This is where they are. Once again, you're confused. This is it's supposed to be a recreation center, but what you see here is something akin to a mesh network of overlapping sensor arrays that literally blanketed the valley from one end to the other. That you rarely ever see in just plain environmental sensors.
I do, of course, have to wonder if there's more to it the more and more we get into this.
Of course, there's
you
more
realize,
to it.
and you realize that the machine the thing on the tripod that's standing next to you is a sensor device. Only remaining functional sensor device.
So I guess I need to go fix the other sensor device.
And so as you look into the sensor device, it is technology. It would still probably be considered top of the line tech today. It's got a built-in quantum supercomputer.
Oh God.
That little dome piece, you're sure pretty much comprises the entire sensor package. And it has things like heart rate monitor, sweat analysis, breathing rates, EKG, brainwave analysis. So this is basically a combination of medical and psychological biosensors.
So, Meridine, tell me, does this strike you as suspicious at all? Or is it just me?
Yes.
So, Kitty, you know, because of being a tech person and knowing a little bit about how this technology is supposed to be applied for, you know that there's only really very few sectors that would ever have invested in this type of technology. Medical, tech, hospitals, mental institutions, psychiatric wards, super black site research facilities. Any place where you would want to make sure that you know where everyone is and what they're doing, this is where it would want to be. And the third place that you know, kind of a chill, is this used to be in vogue when this technology was invented for brainwashing and political education.
Well, that sort of pushes it more towards black side, doesn't it?
Yeah, same.
And so you know for a fact that sensor systems like this were basically used at cult compounds, despotic banana republics, where they would capture political prisoners and put them in these camps and basically literally monitor their brain activity to make sure that any subversive thought was ferreted out, and it was evil. Like whole nations were destroyed because they adopted this technology.
So I guess one thing we might want to really do is see if we can locate that black site on the premises. It's definitely not still functional and or manned, so that's a good point in our favor. But
all this, your scanning of the network and your scanning of this facility is nothing more than an innocuous, recreation camp.
Right, they wouldn't leave like the connection to the black site like straight up on the tourist poster here.
Right, and as far as you know, this sensor mesh network, its intention was to literally just monitor everyone in the area.
But it's exactly what these people need right now. So, imagine if they knew where anyone was coming from.
Right. So you do have the choice. You have a map layout. So you have a bunch of locations. Actually, there's a few dozen sensors within a few hundred feet of this building that you could check to see what the status are.
Okay. So I can definitely just like turn to Meridine and go like, so if you could go ahead and check these, we can go ahead and start doing some practice connecting these things up. And then I can connect them through this system and maybe try making sure the whole system doesn't crash when we do that.
Yeah, no problem, Chief.
All right, so Meridine, so Kitty, you and Meridine coordinate through your walkie-talkie cell phone systems, and you find one location, there's nothing there. You find another location, and you pretty much see the tripod, but the dome is nowhere to be seen. And it's just crumpled, crushed, non-functional piece of crap. The more you find the locations, they're either not there, they're missing, they're destroyed. They're not a single functioning sensor packet that you can see.
Right, so this might be the point where we might have to ask the rest of the Roadrunners, hey, have you seen this stuff?
Maybe.
Or, improv something of our own.
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as
we don't need the full sensor package, do we?
As far as you know, the sensor package on the table is the only one left that's functioning.
Mm-hmm. And we don't need something that like high tech. We just need like motion sensor or heat sensor or something.
You can do that too, but like I said, as far as you know, as far as you can tell, I mean, there might be the chance that somewhere out there in the square miles of the valley, there might be a handful of them out there that might be working, or you can get them to a working state. 20 years ago, whatever happened to this place, it almost seems as if they just abandoned the entire site and let everything decay.
Yeah. But yeah, if giving enough material, maybe Meridian will be able to make like a makeshift sensor.
You could, if you found enough salvageable parts, but it would probably be days and days of you and a bunch of guys combing through the valley looking.
Well, we got a few weeks to handle this, but I guess this session will probably at least be comprised like this day of work, if nothing else.
Yeah. So so like I said, the only thing you have left is to read the corporate records, and that's pretty much it.
Okay. So time to check out those. Let's see what we got.
You pull up the corporate records, like I said, they're all mostly in a degraded, destroyed, deleted, or overwritten state. For entries. And so
Meridian will be back to see Katie at this point. She's curious. She wants to know what is on those files.
Yeah, I'll like double it up on like the terminal screen just so that you could read it at the same time.
And so as you see, these are holographic sort of like vlog entries, people's like personal diary records. And so you pull up the first record. It's dated January 15th, 2000, 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Right, 2000, like 2000.
That's 2000, 20 years ago.
Oh, Jesus, that's long. I wasn't even, yes, I was born.
And so as you punch up the record and you press play, it stutters and spitters for a moment. But once again, the Star Wars holographic display comes up. And what you see is you recognize the Kitty as one of the office. And on that desk now looks completely different. It looks new. It's got, it's like an office, like someone's cubicle office, a little kitschy stuff and a picture and papers everywhere. And so you see a young woman seated in the middle of the desk, and you recognize right away that this woman looks just like the greeter AI. And she looks like a normal person. She doesn't look like a sculpted version of it.
Wait, what is the greater AI was? Well, the one that made her was as well. It was she made herself as an AI.
Would make a little bit of sense.
And so as you sat there, you see this young woman. She's a bit young. I can imagine that she probably just got out of school or something. And she has the most happiest look on her face, like she just won the lottery. She's looking up into the camera, and she starts talking, and she goes, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm finally going to be able to do it." She goes, "Petrochem has agreed to my proposal and just taken over the property from the local municipality. In a few months, the entire facility will be set up, and my project can finally be started." And she looks over, and you can tell, like, from the vantage point, you can gauge that she's looking out into the window, which is supposed to look out into the valley. Sure that my combination of biometric sensors coupled with the heuristic algorithms and combined with top clinicians and psychologists, we can create an environment where any and all mental conditions can be identified and treated effectively with minimal impact to the patient. And she looks over at the camera. She goes, "Of course, for right now, we're only factors we're studying are stress, anxiety, and work performance, because that's the only thing Petrochem wanted to fund for me." She goes, "But eventually, I can use this approach to treat anything from rape trauma, childhood abuse, PSD, even schizophrenic and other mental diseases. I'm so excited." And then you hear something off in the distance, and she goes, "I'm going to go celebrate with my team." And then you hear her kind of like yell over the table, like, "Yeah, I'm coming." And then the image sort of fuzzies out. And then there's a message that says, "Rest of record corrupted."
Oh, I have a bad feeling that the record will go bad, too bad.
And so you as you scan over, you pull up the second record. It's identified as March 13th, 2000, 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so as you punch that record, you see another image come up on the screen. This time it's not the office. You see what you identify as a conference room.
Okay.
You see about half a dozen people sitting around it. And you see the same young woman. They're all wearing lab coats. A lot of them have tablets and notebooks, and they're all furiously typing, and they got papers everywhere. And they're looking up at the screen. Something's projected on the screen, but unfortunately, due to the corruption, you can no longer see what's being displayed on the screen anymore. It's not like censored. It's just literally like the limit of what it can record anymore.
Right.
And once again, and so you see the same young woman, which you probably identify as Dr. Mendez, and instead of being happy, she's kind of like annoyed and tired and frustrated, and she sits there and she's addressing the rest of the group in the conference, and she just goes, no, this is not good at all. We're just not getting the necessary analysis from the system. There are too many gaps, drop signals, false positives and negatives. We're still just using guesswork and our instincts to bolster the deficiencies. This system has to be seamless. And you see her like pound down on the table. And so she leans back on the table and she's just like shaking her head in frustration. And at that moment, one of the other guys in the conference room speaks up and goes, well, Dr. Mendez, I mean, we're already operating at 95% efficiency and accuracy. Because our analysis indicated it would take an order of magnitude of computing power just to bridge the gap and get 99.99%. Goes, I just don't see where we can squeeze any more power from the system. And she snaps back at him. She goes, this has to be something we missed, something in the biometric sensor layout. Maybe if we bought a few more clusters and spent a few more months programming. And she leans over and she looks at the projection. She's like, I'm so close, I can feel it. And another person, as she's saying this, just speaks up and she goes, well, maybe it's just not practically possible. And then the image fuzzies and gets degraded. And then you realize that in the repairing of the records, it skips a time frame. Some of the record got corrupted. And so the next available viewable part snaps in. And so the conference room is now empty. Most of the people that are there are gone. There's nothing there. And Dr. Mendez is still sitting there. And there's another man next to her. And they're like leaned over together and they're talking and they're kind of whispering. And so the audio picks up again. And you hear Dr. Mendez, you think we should do this? I mean, they were designed for brainwashing and political re-education. It makes my skin crawl just thinking what these things were used for. Sweeps her hand across the bunch of papers that are in between the two. And so the guy, he looks at her and he speaks up and he goes, yeah, but we're not going to do anything remotely like that. These things are basically a biometric sensor package with a mini supercomputer built in. They work on a mesh network, so the more you deploy, the more robust the readings are. These things can detect brain activity of a freaking earthworm 2 meters underground. This is exactly what we need. And because we're now enemies with the country that ordered them built in the first place, Santron Corp needs to get rid of them quick, which means fire sale, which means you get a supercomputer cluster for next to nothing. And she's looking at the papers and she picks one up, and in the outline you see a diagram image, and it's a diagram of the sensor cluster that you're seeing on the table. And she looks at the paper and she just has a really big like frown on her face, and she's like, Petrochem would never agree to something like this, not unless we come up with a good excuse to cover it up with. And so he cuts her off right away. He goes, don't worry, I can reclassify them as environmental sensors. They wouldn't even have a clue. And then just as soon as he says that, the whole image just was rest of record corrupted.
I told you it was going to get bad and badder, I guess.
So the next record comes up and you see the date on it, and it's now April 9th, 2001. So almost a full year, over a full year has gone by since the last record. And as you punch this up, you are now seeing the same table and terminal in front of now. And you see Dr. Mendez sitting there, and graphic display is now, you see the little welcome AI standing there, and they're kind of looking at each other. And once again, Dr. Mendez just has a happy as a pig in shit look on her face. And the AI, who you now surmise must equally a happy look on her face. And so Dr. Mendez is almost like having a conversation with the AI. And she goes, wow, I can't believe how much progress we've made. Last year, we were barely statistically approved against the top psychiatric and mental health facilities in the world. In the last 4 months, we've exceeded the top clinics in the world in terms of diagnosis and treatment by an order of magnitude. We're still mostly work burnout, anxiety, stress, but the fundamental structure can be applied to almost any type of disorder or illness. Even with just the population of petrochem employees to sample from, we've been extremely effective at identifying at-risk behaviors and treating multiple mental ailments. Of course, they were upset when I identified one of their senior board members as being a pedophile, but they begrudgingly saw the value of my program when he was discovered. As long as I can continue this success rate, I might finally be able to break free from Petrochem's oppressive non-disclosure agreement and begin to spread my technique across the world. And the AI is just like, I'm so happy that you're happy. I can sense elevated, I can see that your dopamine levels are at an extremely high rate. This makes me feel great. And then the record ends. It just says end record. You finally get to the final entry.
Oh, it's gonna be the worst one.
And so the entry is dated April 11th, 2001, 2 days later. Kitty, you remember in doing your research that April 2001 was the date that the facility was shut down.
Yep.
I have a bad feeling about this.
This is when the murders happen.
And so sure enough, in trepidation, you hit run, and you're back out in the outside office. And Dr. Mendez is sitting there, except you're right, she doesn't have anything remotely like a happy look on her face. Extremely confused looking. She has a completely confused look on her face and completely desperate. Confused and desperate.
Oh.
The scene there in front of the office is a guy. Once again, because of the corruption, you don't really see the details of his face anymore. Plus, he's kind of like, the perspective is kind of like you see the back of his head mostly. The Dr. Mendez addressing this guy, and she is just, what is the meaning of this? I have a charter from the corporate board of Petrochem. And the guy just cuts her off and he goes, under Article 2345, Section 13, Subsection 5E of your corporate charter, the parent company, Petrochem, reserves the right to claim all holdings and assets under emergency vote from the board. The board held an emergency session this morning where they voted unanimously to seize this company and all assets forthwith. You are relieved of your position and must vacate the premises immediately. All materials and records are hereby seized and under control of Petrochem. And, he sounds like it's his job to say this. Like, there's no emotion, there's no animosity, there's just like, I just don't give a fuck. Like, this is what it is. And so, but at the sound of this, Dr. Mendez is a little like, what? And she's like, wait, I just met with them 2 days ago. She's like, you don't understand. This isn't just a rec center. We're doing groundbreaking research here. The board knows that. How could they just stop all this right at this moment? And the guy, once again, he cuts her off. He goes, miss, that's of no concern to me. I was ordered to vacate this facility and prepare to repurpose the site. And then she finally cuts him off and like, to do what? What are they going to do with this place? The guy answers back, I'm not at liberty to say, and you obviously lack the clearance to know. It's a deep breath, like he's like, he just constantly has to do this. And he's like, all right. And he's like, I've been instructed to offer you an employment contract in lieu of the dissolution of the company, as is outlined in your employment contract. I have been instructed to inform you that there is a position at Petrochem Recreation Center in Las Vegas. And at the sound of that, she blows up. They want to send me to Vegas to that whorehouse they call a rec center for that fucking pedophile? And she turns it. And so she, as soon as that something catches her attention, and she see her like wheel around and look out the window again, like the same time you saw the view of the valley. And so she turns around and she just gets back, and she just gets this angry look, and she's like, "Are you serious? You're gonna turn this place into a goddamn?" And then, sure enough, corrupted.
Kitty?
Yes.
I don't know why I have a feeling that the guy that was talking to Mendez is the guy that the road runner met.
You know, you think it's been 19 years he would have gotten around to doing something, but I guess he had a whole lot on his plate, huh?
Or maybe something has happened and
like a bunch of people moving in.
Now, here's the mystery, because he said all property and assets are seized, but your understanding is this site was abandoned. No one took anything. Records were not copied. Things weren't even shut down. It's as if they literally kicked everyone out and didn't even bother to turn off the lights.
Maybe, I don't
Must
know.
have been something that they wanted to keep running. Maybe.
With corpse, we never know.
Well, I mean, we got plenty of time to walk around and find out, don't we?
And so that's just it. So we're going to end that scene right there, and we're going to head back into the main meeting hall where Roger and Trench hanging out. We can say, Trench, how about you go into the armory since Ricky had to unexpectedly leave, so we can at least do that scene real quick.
Okay.
Trench, as let's just say you follow Ricky in. Ricky got distracted by the door, and so he just told you to take care of it. And so as you walk back up to the front door, you know, being a military person and being in charge of troops, you know, while this is a fairly typical nomad gang, and you know, obviously they're not trained troops, they're all defended perimeter. You know, you yourself are like, why the fuck would you sell all your heavy weapons for? But other than that, you're like, okay, at least you guys aren't shooting each other in the foot. And you know, since he already gave you the clearance, they open the door for you to get into the armory, and you walk in. And yeah, it's a fairly, you know, it's a storage shed. It's basically just got a bunch of pistols and shotguns. He was right. There are no heavy weapons here, except for medium assault rifle and a hand grenade.
I wouldn't mind a shotgun.
And so yeah, there's basically 7 shotguns in here, the 1 assault rifle, 10 auto pistols, and a hand grenade. 120 rounds of shotgun rounds, 200 pistol rounds, and 100 rounds of rifle ammo. You assume that everyone else is fully armed right now.
Okay.
And so, so yeah, that's all the heavy weaponry you have access to. And so as you're looking around, what are you gonna do? What are you doing?
I mean, I guess that's what I did.
So as you're sitting in there, you hear a commotion up above as people start running and moving, and you hear a bunch of guys outside go, "Hey, someone's coming!"
Okay, I go outside then.
All right, so you have the option. You can look through the slit hole through the front gate, or you can climb up and get onto the palisade.
Be a badass and climb up.
Well, yeah, I would climb up.
As you swing up to the ladder and you climb up, you see the half a dozen so patrol guards. They're all in attention now. They got their shotguns ready. And as you look up, you see a dust trail off in the distance. Within a few minutes, you see about 5 cars roll up. One of them is actually a flatbed truck. And on the back of this truck, you see another car kind of like chained onto the top of it. Everything is matte black. A couple of the trucks have a flag, you know, those car flags running by, and they all have crosses on them, Christian crosses. And as the cars roll up, you hear one of the guards next to you is, "Oh, fuck these guys." And he leans over to the side and goes, "Hey, tell tell Roger the fucking divine wind is here.
The divine.
That's a pretty shitty name.
Yeah.
Divine wind.
Yeah, religion never been good.
So as these cars pull up, they stop in front of the gate. Guys get out. They're all wearing priest outfits, like the priest Cossacks, all black, with the white collar. Obviously, all dirty and dungy. All wearing priest robes. They got like body piercings and facial tattoos. One guy's got like a whole hawk. A couple guys are in like altar boy outfits too, like really ratty and dirty altar boy outfits. All of them have crucifixes around their chests, and but they're all packing. They got weapons. They're armed to the teeth. And as they step up, you see an older, dark-skinned woman, bone thin. She too is wearing a priest Cossack outfit, and as she's walking, as you notice, as she steps out and walks, she has basically a digital display skin. It basically allows you to put like logos and graphics on your face, and you notice that every once in a while it just cycles through different Christian symbols, like a cross, the little fish, and yeah, she's like bone thin. She barely has any hair left on the top of her head.
Hugo, does someone come to at least warn us that there's someone at the door?
Well, you're in the room, so you don't have any way unless Trench, leaves the word.
Or Steve.
Trench could always pull out his cell phone.
Cell phone.
And so yeah, Trench, as you watch this, like I said, this woman's barely has any. She looks crazy. She's got this crazed look on her face.
Well, most nomad are crazy.
And so as she steps out and she walks, you see a bunch of guys run over to the back where this car is on this flatbed. And Trench, as you look at the car, it's matte black. And in white highway reflective paint, there is a cross painted over the top of the hood. And there's a cross painted on the doors. And so as you're watching, a bunch of guys run to the back and they start unhooking the car and they pull this ramp out. And you see this guy come out in the back and he just starts like preaching. He goes, "Oh Lord, please grant us the grace to do your divine will, and please allow us to be an instrument of your divine grace, and please allow our vehicle to be the instrument of your good news, and please bless these men as they handle your instruments and be the divine will that you proceed, so that we may win your glory for the greater good of all mankind. Amen." And you see the guys are like, "Hallelujah, amen," and they're like rolling the car off the ramp and like gingerly taking care of it. And so yeah, well, you're gone. So I guess what happens, Trench, is you see Roger, he comes out and you see him like kind of pull his pants up and, get himself all together. And he walks out with a bunch of guys and you see him come out. They open the gate and he walks up and, the old woman sees him. She just like hyper laser focuses it on him. And she goes, and she goes, and Roger looks at her and goes, "What the fuck do you want, you old bat?" Goes, "How dare you blaspheme the prophet of the Lord? I have received a vision this morning, and it is time for me to cast you down and lay you low like the Philistine that you are." And he goes, "Man," he goes, "what the fuck are you talking about?" She goes, "The Lord has granted me a vision and has told me it is time to challenge you, as David has challenged Goliath." And he's like, he's rubbing his face. He's like, "Are you saying you want to race me again?" She's like, yes, the divine portents are here, and it is time for us to do. She goes, God has willed it so, and everyone goes, praise Jesus. And he's just like, he goes, well, listen, as much as you all want to be saved and whatnot, the only thing I race for is money. So unless you got some fucking cash on you, take your fucking car and shove it up your ass. And he goes and turns around and he walks out and she goes, blasphemer, I will give you your Caesar's coin, but remember that your soul belongs to the Lord. And he's like, yeah. And he goes, open the gate, let him in. This should be fun.
Yeah, I guess me and Kitty would be like walking towards the gate when we hear that like from the other side.
Right. So as you walk back down out the main room and you see like everyone's getting all excited, you ask a few people, and basically you get this: the Holy Rollers is basically like a rival nomad gang nearby.
Yeah, we guessed it.
Right. And so essentially they've been challenged to a race. This is apparently a fairly common occurrence between these two groups. These are not the group of people who have been harassing and threatening them. So just the first they're all like, you kind of like, this is old hat, like, oh, fucking guys again always come down here and want to race. You see everyone, everyone's getting together and they're like, all right. And then you see Roger, I guess we're running another event tonight. Get the word out. And, as you can see, you also, Maradine, what you know right away is part of how his operation is he runs races. It's apparently up in the basically an underground street race happening right now. He goes, he goes, all right, get the circuit ready. Make sure the pit's prepared and get the car.
Fine.
You want to get in on this, Maradine?
I don't have a good